Tonight, many of America's farmers already feeling the pinch are worried about the possibility of more challenges. That's because President Trump is threatening to deport millions of undocumented.
So farmers right now are facing really trying times, and the president is going to put a lot of farmers out of business like this based on these announcements and tariffs.
The Americans who will almost immediately feel the pain are farmers.
American wheat just got dumped by global buyers who threw $19.4 billion worth of contracts straight into Canada's waiting arms. The Philippines canceled a 110,000-ton deal overnight, while South Korea literally wrote new food safety laws just to avoid American grain. What happens when the world's former wheat superpower becomes agricultural toxic waste? Here's what actually went down. The Philippines, which used to buy 2.7 million tons of American wheat annually like clockwork, suddenly decided our grain wasn't worth the headache anymore. Miguel Foods, Manila's biggest milling operation, canceled its March 2025 contract renewal faster than you can say political instability. Instead, they signed with Saskatchewan-based Vetira for 120,000 tons and Australia's CBH for another 40,000 tons. The kicker: American wheat was actually cheaper, but they still walked away. Insurance companies started treating American wheat shipments like toxic waste. The Philippine Customs Authority slapped a political delay risk premium on U.S. cargo, pushing insurance costs to $410 per ton compared to just $225 for Canadian shipments from Vancouver. Think about that. The same distance, same ocean, but nearly double the insurance because the world views American agricultural policy as unpredictable as a Las Vegas slot machine. Meanwhile, France basically ghosted American wheat exports entirely. Their first quarter 2025 imports from the U.S. totaled a pathetic 132,000 tons, the worst showing since 2002. During that same period, Canadian imports shot up to 218,000 tons. The French weren't being dramatic, they were being practical. American ports couldn't provide the carbon tracking certificates required by EU regulations, while Canada integrated their Ottawa Protocol directly into the EU system with QR codes embedded in shipping invoices. Bureaucratic nightmares aside, the real slap in the face came from South Korea. Seoul decided to cut their maximum allowance for glyphosate residues to 30 parts per billion, after American wheat consistently showed levels between 200 and 400 parts per billion. That's like showing up to a low sodium diet convention with a bucket of salt. Korean officials weren't being picky. They were protecting their citizens from what they viewed as contaminated grain. Statistics don't lie, and these numbers are brutal. Canada's wheat market share in South Korea jumped to 62% in the first 5 months of 2025, while the US lost approximately $410 million in Korean sales alone. The Parallel Economics Institute estimates this translates to 6,200 jobs disappearing from North Dakota's economy. 6,000 jobs vanished because American farmers couldn't figure out how to reduce pesticide residues. Transportation became another nightmare scenario for American wheat. Mexico, historically one of America's most reliable wheat customers, got tired of dealing with border delays that added 12 hours of backlog time per shipment. Political tensions and increased border controls turned what should have been routine grain deliveries into logistical disasters. Mexican mills operate on just-in-time schedules, not maybe in time if politics cooperate schedules. Canada swooped in with their through-rail fast lane protocol, guaranteeing uninterrupted rail flow from Alaska to Baja. By May 2025, Canada's wheat market share in Mexico increased by 38%, while the U.S. share dropped from 32% to 17%. American farmers are basically watching their southern neighbor buy grain from their northern neighbor while they sit in the middle with warehouses full of wheat nobody wants. Back home, the damage is becoming impossible to ignore. Kansas Wheat Commission records show state silo stocks jumped 44% from the previous year, pushing spot prices down from $6.92 to $6.50 per bushel. With break-even profitability set at $6.10, countless medium-sized farms are now operating in the red. These aren't abstract numbers. They represent generational family farms going broke because global buyers lost faith in American reliability. Technology gaps are making matters worse. While American wheat operations still rely on outdated certification systems, Canada launched a $950 million protein supercluster program that integrates producers across Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta into a fully traceable digital supply chain. Milling companies can now access real-time data on protein content, moisture levels, and pesticide residues by scanning a QR code. It's like comparing a smartphone to a rotary phone. Agricultural experts predict this shift could become permanent. The Purdue University Food and Agriculture Policy Research Center notes that global wheat trade operates with cumulative memory, and the probability of a miller returning to a previous supplier within 5 years is only 15%. Once buyers switch supply chains, they rarely switch back. American wheat exporters are learning this lesson the hard way. Environmental regulations are accelerating the exodus. Canada reduced glyphosate use by 45% in prairie regions through their Clean Farm Transition program, while American farmers continue using levels that trigger automatic rejections in key markets. Saskatchewan University's drone-based application system reduces residue risk with 90% accuracy using deterministic modeling. American agriculture is getting outmaneuvered by superior technology and smarter environmental policies. Quality control has become Canada's secret weapon. Canadian Western Red Spring wheat consistently meets strict international standards, while American shipments face constant retesting delays. In South Korea, 28% of American wheat shipments required retesting at ports, creating shipping delays that deterred importers. Canadian wheat arrives with documentation that passes inspection every time. Supply chain diversification is reshaping global wheat markets permanently. Unlike canola, where 2/3 of Canadian exports went to China, Canadian wheat gets sold to dozens of countries worldwide. This geographic distribution makes Canadian wheat exports more stable during trade disputes. American wheat, meanwhile, has become synonymous with political risk and regulatory uncertainty. Financial markets are reflecting this agricultural reality check. The Chicago Fed's June Agricultural Letters Report predicts that losing major buyers like the Philippines, France, Korea, Mexico, and Italy could reduce annual U.S. wheat exports by 10 million tons, dropping the average from 26 million tons to just 16 million tons. This scenario would result in a direct contraction of $19.4 billion in Midwest GDP and 45,000 additional job losses in non-agricultural regional employment. Price competition isn't driving this shift. Reliability is. Chicago's CBOT futures data shows Kansas hard red wheat declined by only $8 to $10 per ton compared to Winnipeg prices over the past 12 months, yet Europe and Asia transferred 35 to 40% of their contracts to Canadian suppliers. The price difference can't explain a shift this massive. This is about trust, predictability, and long-term business relationships. Infrastructure investments are paying dividends for Canadian wheat exporters. The Port of Prince Rupert, 60 kilometers north of Vancouver, opened a new Canport grain terminal with a $1 billion investment, more than doubling the port's capacity for cereal grain exports. Prince Rupert offers the shortest sailing route from North America to Asian markets, giving Canadian wheat a logistical advantage over American competitors. Global buyers want stability, not drama. European and Asian importers increasingly view Canada as a politically stable supplier where trade flows won't be disrupted by policy rhetoric or Twitter tantrums. Canadian agricultural practices emphasize sustainability, traceability, and compliance with international standards. American agriculture, by contrast, has become associated with regulatory uncertainty and political volatility. Market diversification strategies are working brilliantly for Canadian wheat exporters. CETA provides tariff-free access to European markets, while expanding trade agreements with Indonesia and other Asian nations open new opportunities. As U.S. products face tariff barriers and political complications, Canada builds bridges and captures market share. Strategic thinking beats reactive policies every time. What if no strategy can ever recover American wheat at all? What will be the future of the U.S. agriculture landscape? Speaking of strategy, if you're tired of mainstream media missing these massive economic shifts, hit that subscribe button, because somebody needs to document how agricultural empires crumble one bad policy at a time. Production numbers tell the complete story. Canadian spring wheat yields have tripled in recent decades through plant breeding and improved agronomy, with some farmers regularly harvesting 90 to 100 bushels per acre compared to 30 bushels in the 1990s. Meanwhile, U.S. hard red spring wheat acreage is at its lowest level since 1970 as farmers switch to more profitable crops like corn and soybeans. Innovation drives competitive advantage in modern agriculture. Canadian farmers have adopted precision agriculture technology at unprecedented rates, using drones and satellite sensors to monitor wheat fields, GPS-driven equipment for efficient planting and harvesting, and smart logistics systems for reliable delivery. American wheat operations lag behind in technology adoption, making them less competitive in global markets. Quality assurance has become Canada's calling card. Canadian wheat is almost entirely GMO-free, since genetically modified wheat isn't approved for cultivation, which matters enormously in markets like the EU and Japan, where non-GMO crops are preferred. Environmental stewardship through no-till cropping and crop rotation practices appeals to sustainability-conscious buyers worldwide. Regulatory compliance separates winners from losers in international grain markets. Canadian wheat consistently meets European Union standards, while American shipments face incomplete paperwork, high carbon scores, and unpredictable customs delays. French buyers specifically cited these issues when explaining their switch to Canadian suppliers. Competence beats complaints every time. Trade agreements matter more than political rhetoric. Canada's CETA agreement provides preferential access to European markets, while the expanding Canada-Indonesia trade deal opens Asian opportunities. American wheat faces tariff barriers and political complications, while Canadian exporters enjoy stable, predictable market access. Smart diplomacy beats chest thumping every time. Policy stability creates business confidence. Canadian agricultural policies emphasize long-term competitiveness through technology investment, environmental sustainability, and international cooperation. American agricultural policy swings wildly based on political cycles, creating uncertainty that drives buyers toward more predictable suppliers. Consistency beats chaos in international business. The wheat market transformation is accelerating, not slowing down. Agriculture Canada forecasts that seeded wheat area in 2025 will climb by 2.6% year over year, roughly an extra 500,000 acres, while American wheat acreage continues shrinking. Canadian farmers are seizing opportunities created by American policy failures and competitive disadvantages. Recovery requires fundamental changes, not cosmetic adjustments. The U.S. needs midterm agricultural trade agreements that limit political surprises and technology investments that digitize the certification chain. Without these changes, America's share of global wheat markets will continue shrinking, while Canadian competitors capture the opportunities created by American incompetence. Subscribe to our channel to stay updated with the real agricultural analysis with zero political influence, as we want to keep it real.